Welcome back to Mama's Talk Relationships. I am Lisa Miller.
And I'm Alessandra Martinet.
Are you ready to dive into another episode about love, loss, and everything in between after divorce?
I am so ready.
Yay! What are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to talk about the struggle that people go through, whether they should stay or should go.
Mm,
Stay or leave their marriage or a relationship. It's really something that's tough to deal with. But before we get into all that, we have a couple of exciting things to share with you guys. Lisa, go first.
so, you guys, if you want to go deeper on whether you should stay or go in your marriage, if you really want to get clarity, want to rebuild your self confidence, your self worth, your self love, join me and a group of amazing women in my group, Reclaim You. We would love to have you. Find me on Instagram at lisamiller.coach. DM me and I will send you all the details.
And like I said last week, I'm going to be partnering with Flashback and we're going to go on an amazing trip and it's going to launch at the end of June. More to follow, and you're going to find it in my link in bio at Mama's Guide to Divorce.
Amazing. So let's dive in. So the journey of deciding whether to stay in your marriage and really work on that or leave and start a whole new chapter is really a very deeply personal journey. And no one can give you that answer. No one can say yes, this is what you should do. But what we can do is offer you a lot of tools to try to start to get that clarity. Part of it is also when you're in that place, it's really hard to make a decision because you're almost in survival mode. So when you're in survival mode, you have a lot of brain fog and you can't make a really good true decision. It's going to be based more on emotion, which it's such a big decision. You don't want this to be based on emotion.
This is true, but what about for me? I don't have that experience, right? The decision was made for me.
Yes and no. I mean, you wanted to work on it until you were like, "There's nothing to work on," right?
Yes, but the initial decision was not made.
Right.
I didn't make it.
You
But
and
what
you
I
weren't
did
in that gray area, which I'm gonna say a lot of our listeners who are gonna listen to this show are in the area of should I stay, should I go, the spiraling, the ruminating thoughts, the unbelievable guilt you have of am I blowing up my family? How are my kids gonna survive? There's all the fears, which you had all those fears, right? Like what were some of the fears that you went through?
well, the fears that I went through, one of the big ones was the stigma that I felt divorce was associated with, and that everyone around me was married, and my kids were going to be the only kids at school that had divorced parents. And
Mhm.
I was going to be the only woman that was divorced. And boy, was I wrong.
Mhm. But so what I'm hearing is like there's the fear of I'm gonna mess my kids up. There's the fear of can I do this on my own? There's the fear of can I be alone? I don't know what that's like. There's the fear of what is everyone else gonna think of me, right?
Hmm.
So these are all the things that are going through someone who is actually really thinking about being the one to leave. So similar but different, right? You still had all those fears just at a different point than the people that are going through it. I mean, some of the questions I get a lot in my DMs, and maybe you get them as well, is when will I know it's time to leave my relationship? How do I know if I should stay? How do I know if I should go? How do I know how I truly feel about someone? Like how do you get to all those feelings? Do you ever get questions like
Well,
that?
I get a lot of DMs like that. And what I tell people is when you're at peace and when you really know you've tried everything to make it work and you've looked at all the problems in your relationship and figured out if it's really like a non-negotiable and if you are still in love with that person and still willing to work on it
And
because
if
some
the other
people just check
person
out.
right, but and if the other person is still in love with you and is still willing to work on it. So some
Hmm.
great, great journaling questions here, right, you guys? And by the way, when I say journaling questions, I don't mean just journal on it once. What I would actually really recommend any of you doing if you're in this place is we're going to be probably going back and forth on a bunch of different questions, write them down, journal on them today, and then wait like a couple weeks, journal on them again. Then wait a few more weeks and journal on them again. Reason being, you'll start to see patterns. You're going to be in a different emotional state each time you journal. And that's really what's truly going on in your heart and your mind. Today, you
Uh-huh.
could just be really mad at your husband or your wife and frustrated and just be like, F this, I'm done. Right. And so your answers are going to be very different if you journal on it after you guys just had like a great day together. So see what's actually consistent and true over time. This is not a decision to be made lightly. So the first and foremost is like you have to come back home to yourself and come back home to your heart and get into your heart space. So, some great questions. Do you still have
Well,
love for your spouse?
but I
What?
think before any of
Okay.
that, what needs to happen is you need to communicate with your significant other and have a conversation.
That you're feeling this way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
You have
communication is
communication
key
is
no matter
key.
what.
Yes. Yes.
And, I think back and, like, maybe if more conversations would have been had
Mhm.
before everything unraveled for me, maybe we'd be in a different place. Maybe we wouldn't be. We can't do
Right.
woulda, coulda, shoulda, but I think communication is key.
I absolutely agree. You have to start the communication. This is what are the quote unquote hard conversations. Hey, I'm feeling
Mhm,
super disconnected. Are you? What can we do about it? Like, why are you feeling disconnected? And what you're trying to seek is, does this person still have love for me? Even if it's just like a little ember of love left, there's still a fight in both of you. You'll know when it's time when you have no fight left, when
mhm.
you're just like, I don't
I've
have it anymore, right? But
I've done
getting
it
there is a
all.
process. What?
Mhm. No, you when you thought to yourself, "I've done everything I could,"
Mhm. Then
that's when
then
you know it's
it's
time to let go.
right, and no one can tell that for you, so it's important to journal on some questions. So some things that come to my mind, what's going on in your marriage that makes you consider leaving? Start there,
Mhm,
right? What do you gain by staying in your marriage? What do you give up by staying? What do you want from this divorce? Do you think there's someone out there that can make you happier? If that's the case, let's get real here, you guys. Like, are you okay if you're going to be alone? Are you okay if your spouse goes out and finds someone else? How are you going to handle that? Are you going to be okay? Do you even care? Maybe you don't. There's no right or wrong answer.
but here's the thing, you can't think, "Is someone else gonna make me happier?" You have to be happy within yourself, and that might tie
Yes,
into why the marriage is unraveling because you haven't done the work.
true. But you could be thinking, I mean, look, I'll be totally transparent and honest. Like, I truly believe in love and I think we should be connected, or in connection is really important to me. So, me getting divorced, part of my decision was I want to find someone else who lights me up and who like is like more on my path. So that was part of my decision. Is like my husband who I loved and I have a lot of love for still. He's the father of my children. We just weren't connecting in that way anymore. So,
Mhm.
yes, you have to love yourself. Yes, you have to be happy within yourself, but you also have to be really clear like is my spouse who I want? If nothing changes with who they are today, is that person the person you want to spend the rest of your life with? Because
Yeah,
you don't want
you
to stay for potential either. Could they change?
never.
Could they become better? They could, but they could not too.
Yeah, you can't fall for the potential, whether it's in a marriage, whether it's in a relationship, whether when you just start
Mhm.
dating
Yeah,
someone, you can't fall for that. But then I also
exactly.
think that you need to look at, are you guys aligned with what you want in your future?
Absolutely. Because here's the truth, and this is the hard, hard truth, you guys. Love is not enough. You have to be compatible. You have to have similar values. You have to want the same things in life. You have to want to be going in the same direction.
Yeah. And do you want the same thing? Like, if you
Do you
look
want the same thing?
absolutely.
And it's getting really real and honest with yourself is are you just staying for the kids? Because at some point, your kids are gonna grow up and be out of the house, and then it's just you and that person, and that's a long road to be with someone just for the kids.
And that's a really, I believe, a bad example to show your kids because that's not a healthy love.
Right, and our kids are gonna grow up to model whatever you show them. So if you're okay, and this is a great question to be journaling on, if you're okay with your kids having the relationship that you have, stay. If you're not, it's a clue that maybe this isn't the relationship that you wanna stay in.
Yeah. And what are some things that you think that you would advise everyone to do? I know like journaling and stuff, but as far as a support system, I think people need to lean in and work with someone and the right people during this time, right? Because you might
Absolutely.
have like angry family members that are like, screw him,
Mhm. They have their own
you
thoughts,
know?
their own feelings that are gonna get projected on you. You need someone who is super neutral, who
Hmm.
I truly believe working with a coach who has been through it is going to collapse time and help you make that decision that's right for you, whether you stay in your marriage or not. Like, I want to be really honest. I love love, and I am not here to be like, go get divorced. It's whatever is best for you and is going to make you happy. That's what a really good coach should be on your side to make that decision that's right for you. Because what's right for you might not be right for me, and that's okay.
Hmm. Let me ask you
But yes,
something. Sorry,
before
because I
before you ask
just,
me something, let me answer your other question. So, yes, so I think having the right support, having the right coach or therapist, whoever you feel comfortable with to help guide you and honor your true feelings is really important. I think a support community, like my group that I talked about in the beginning, Reclaim You,
hmm,
is something I wish I would have had. This is one of the times in your life you will feel very alone. To have
yeah.
people that are going through it, have been through it, is life-changing. I've seen it with my own eyes. These women are so grateful and thankful for each other, and they rise together, and it's amazing, and they understand each other because 'cause they've either been there or they're going through it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for helping me see this through a different lens." Like, I didn't have that. I wish I would have had that.
Yeah, I
Would
didn't
my
have that
just
at all either, but
Yeah,
different.
life-changing. I think, just really taking care of yourself. So this is what I tell a lot of my clients, like, this is the time to reconnect to your heart and mind, because if you've been in
Mhm.
any kind of, like, toxic relationship or just in a marriage for a really long time, you lose yourself. So now is the time to come back home to your heart and rebuild your self-confidence, rebuild your self-worth, rebuild your self-love so that you can actually make this decision from a really heart-centered place and not through just, like, a bunch of emotions
No, and get in touch with who you were
or who
before,
you are
like,
now.
becoming or who you are now, sorry. Not a mom, not a wife, not a
Mhm.
girlfriend,
But who you
but
are, like, who Alessandra is, who Lisa Miller is, right? Like,
yeah.
who are you, and who do you wanna be? Who do you wanna be in this next chapter? Whether you're married or not, you're entering into a new chapter. Like, let's
Mhm.
let's make this the best chapter ever, but you can't do that if you don't know who you are.
No, absolutely, but what I was gonna ask you is, like, you work with a lot of people, and what would you say, like, have there been a lot of women that have decided to stay? And what do you think some reasons to stay are?
Some good reasons or what their reasons are. Those are very different.
Oh, well, let's talk about what some good reasons are, and what about some reasons that are not good, but they decided to stay anyway? You don't very high
Okay, so,
level.
I mean, I think, like, the good reason is you still really truly love your partner, and you want it to work, and you're willing to go through the growing pains to get it to work, because it's gonna be work and it's gonna be hard and there's gonna be moments of like, "Ah, maybe it's just easier to leave." But there has to be enough love and enough want to get to that place. But it
Mhm.
has to be from both people, right? It
No,
can't
it
just be
cannot be a
one-sided.
one-sided, no. Mm-mm.
It's never gonna work if it's just one-sided. So the people who decided to stay were usually people that their spouse wanted it to work, and they were on the fence, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, like, I really truly love this person. I
Mhm.
was just angry." Or they decided to really truly forgive the other person for any kind of resentments that might have come across, which is completely possible. But there has to be a want, and a lot of people hold on to anger and resentment and they can't get past it. And that's a personal choice. There's, again, no right or wrong. You just have to decide for yourself what is best for you. Um,
Mhm.
things that I don't think are good, I don't think you should stay for your kids. I really truly don't.
No,
I think
that is, like, the
you're
worst reason. I'm sorry.
I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you're doing your kids a disservice. I think we are on this planet for such a short period of time. We deserve to be truly happy and happy for us, happy for you. And that's where your self-worth comes into play. That's where you have to really feel into like, I deserve to be happy too. And my kids are going to be happy if I'm happy and showing
Mhm.
them that life. It's a different
Well,
journey. It's
yeah,
not a bad
and
journey.
no, and when you're miserable, you project that onto everyone around you and your
Yeah.
kids. Do you want
Yeah.
that for them? Like, I wouldn't. That's why I'm
No,
so
you're
glad that, I'm in a really good and happy place, even
mhm.
though I didn't make the decision. It was a hard road, but
Yeah.
you can't just do things for the kids.
No, I mean, your energy is everything, and if
100%.
you're in a miserable relationship, your energy to your children, to your friends, to the
Every
world is gonna be crappy,
Yeah,
and that's gonna be their experience.
no, I know, and I would just tell anyone that's really struggling, just really weigh out the pros and cons and do the work on yourself and give it thought before you just fly off the handle and be like, I want a divorce. Because I've been had friends that have had infidelity in their marriages and they still decided to stay in it. And now they're really happy because they both wanted to do the work.
Yeah, I
And
I
that's
have,
a
had a
big,
lot of clients.
yeah, that's a big commitment, but they both
Mhm.
wanted it and they're so happy now.
Yeah,
So,
and and that can actually bring you closer. So, I mean, there's amazing things that can happen if you really wanted to. You have to really do the work and get there, but it's all possible. Absolutely.
uh-huh.
So,
Well,
and again, I would say don't make this decision on the fly. I know most of you
no.
who are listening have been thinking about it for years, but have you really truly done work around it? Have you sat there and journaled out like what am I really thinking? Like get into your subconscious because that's what's running the show right now. Like, what is your subconscious telling you about divorce? What is your subconscious telling you about who you will be if you are divorced? Get really clear, get really honest, and don't just do it once. Do it. I tell my clients, give yourself a time period, whether it
Mhm.
be 3 months, whether it be 6 months, whether it be a year. Literally, just close your eyes, put your hands in your heart, go inward, and ask yourself, like, how long do I want to be questioning all of this? And your body if you're in tune with your body will tell you and just go with it. And that doesn't mean you have to make a decision by that point. That just means like, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to reevaluate. In 6 months, I'm going to
Mhm.
reevaluate. And then stop ruminating and just like every couple weeks journal and see what comes up and see what the patterns are and see what the consistencies are. And you'll start to get really clear.
Well, and I
And
also really would encourage them to have the hard conversations with your significant other. All right, mamas, we're nearing the end of another episode of Mamas Talk Relationships. As always, we want to thank you for joining us on this journey. We'll be back next week with another insightful, informative, and hopefully entertaining episode on navigating dating and relationships after divorce.